Thank you very much. Now, because we need to address this, unfortunately. So we've heard in other states and in our own where they are trying to put legislation through of what they are, generally calling the Don't Say Gay bills, where they are stifling our ability to say what we need to say by limiting what people can talk about. Even to the point of if a student approaches a trusted adult and needing to talk about an issue, that they may not be able to talk about that issue. So I'm not really sure what a question would be here, but other than what do we think we can do if we are faced with that situation? What can we do after the fact? But what can we do before the fact? So obviously we can attend school board meetings. We can make our voices heard. We can attend as parents, as educators, as counselors. We can pay attention to what's going on. But in the event that everything that we try doesn't work and we have those policies and actions put into place, what do you think we can still do to support our youth that are very critical, the LGBTQAI youth? I know that's a tough question.
Mm-hmm. Very hard.
Well, hopefully, school will always be a place where students can go and share, what's happening with them, what's happening to them. And so to that point, focusing on the issue, teaching students how to communicate and focusing on the issue, what's happening to them. And maybe the language is not so centered around their sexual orientation as it is the discrimination they may be feeling or the inequality they may be feeling. Just teaching them how to adequately express how they're being impacted or their feelings, that's important. And that's a work in progress, working with middle school, high schoolers, just teaching them how to communicate effectively. If the language of sexual orientation is taken away from us, we can still, talk about how we're being mistreated, ways that we're being mistreated, terms that are being used that may be offensive. So teaching them to still report and talk to counselors or, like you said, that trusted adult is going to be very critical, even more critical if they're silenced into using certain terms.
And that's a key point for the educators too, that if they approach the issue from that standpoint, there's things that they can still say and things that they can still discuss. And we have that safe outlet of the school counselor because as in any counselor environment, what occurs there is private conversation.
Absolutely. And hopefully, and I'd like to believe that all counselors were prefaced by saying that, what goes on in here stays in here. And so that's important for students to know. And so school counselors are only required to report if you threaten to harm yourself or someone else. But anything outside of that, you're safe, And so I'd like to think that the counselors are creating that relationship and safe space for students to come and talk to. And in many cases, when they come to us, they don't have the words. A part of our job is to sort through it all and give them the words. So then together as a team, we go and figure out how we solve it, But sometimes as school counselors, it really is to help them sort through the emotions, put it to terms. So now let's figure out what we need to do to fix this. So I will encourage students that whatever it is, it doesn't have to be pretty. We're used to looking at things that are not pretty, okay? Just come. We'll put it together. We'll listen and sort through your emotions and give you the terms you need and put it to terms and get to some solutions, okay?
Thank you.
I think my general concern about this recent flood of legislation around the Don't Say Gay issue is the fact that there's a perception around if we speak it, it will become someone's lived existence, and that is just not the case. I think that what this legislation aims to do is to reduce the ranks of the population of people who are the largest advocates for these students, and it's the teachers that they have. And we need to be increasing those individuals who are educated and aware of the issues that this group of students is going through. And so for me, as an educator, I would have my picture, and as I have in the past, a picture of my husband in my classroom, and that is a clear signal to most children who pick up on that, that I am gay. However, for other educators who are allies, who are even more critical than our LGBTQ teachers, because we need, for every one LGBTQ teacher that we need in a school, and we do need them because that's representation, but we need 5 more allies in their place to support the work that needs to be done. I think the legislation sets the stage to silence those individuals, and it's absolutely critical to take that fire of supporting students. If you can no longer legally do that in a place that you work, you must do it in the community that you live in. And there are several ways to do that. You can go to school board meetings, but if it's a state issue in terms of a state passed law and the legislator, then going to your legislators with data in hand that is readily available, and encourage them to reconsider and amend any legislation that is built to reduce the supports that we have with one of our most fragile populations of students.
Right. What I find most hypocritical about the entire thing is they step forward and claim we're doing this for the safety of the children when the data clearly shows it is detrimental. And it's mind-boggling.
And what we're going to see if that happens is that we are going to have to step up how educators and admin start to respond to students who are, we are going to see an increase in their anxiety and their depression and their self-harm, their distress, in general. And so we need to get people trained. We need to get us stepped up. And I don't mean just one of our PDs that we click through and we go, okay, we did this. No, we need someone there on site. We need to be prepared. Parents of these students need to be prepared, and maybe, if there's a way to even prepare the students themselves, like let teachers know, let teachers speak with the counselors so they know that this is a safe space to direct the children to, that there's certain things we can't say, but that if the counselor can, here's the steps, here's the action we will take.
Absolutely. And we are accustomed to being that middle person between educators and administrators, absolutely. And in most cases, we have just as many visits from teachers as we do our students. It just depends on what's going on. And this is a topic that certainly increased traffic from teachers into our offices because they're struggling. The school counselors will always be an ally when it comes to equality and acceptance.
And we're putting more work on you, but we appreciate it.
But that part, we got it. Yeah, we do. We own that.
So I think that in the same way that you talked earlier about following policies to a letter, I think that one of the things that I've sort of tossed around in my brain is making sure that I know that legislation inside out and backwards and upside down, so that I know that I can both protect myself and my students, and keep supporting the students in the same way that I do. And no problem, I can edit my language. I taught elementary school, and there is a sailor that lives inside of me. I can edit my language. So I 100% would encourage everyone to, make sure that you've read the entire bill, make sure that you understand what is being discussed, because, we're educators and knowledge is power, and I can't talk to my legislators if I haven't read the thing that I'm talking about. And right now, the bulk of this is very broad, and it is very, it's really subjective. And so the ways that those things can get talked about, I can still sit and listen to my kids. I may have to refrain from saying anything, but I can still be the person that lets them come to my classroom when they have something going on. I can still be the person that compliments your green hair, or so even if I have to edit my language, I don't think that I'm going to have to edit the person that I am and the educator that I am. So.
And my lasting thought on this too is, and it kind of was inspired by your statement, protect yourself. And I know that there are educators out there that won't be able to turn that advocacy off, that won't be able to, I don't want to say obey, but respect this legislation. Don't leave yourself out there to the point where your credential is in jeopardy. We cannot afford to lose a quality educator over a piece of legislation that is so anti-student. And so in that sense, if you are in need of support as an educator and you don't know who to turn to, those national organizations that are pro-teacher, pro-student, are critical more than ever to be a part of. And if you find yourself in need of legislation, in need of representation, you need to put yourself in a situation where you can lean on those national organization partners for that resource. No one wants to be in a position to where they are in legal jeopardy or their teaching credential is in jeopardy over being pro-student. And to my knowledge, there are no national pro-student, pro-teacher organizations that are coming out in support of any of this legislation. And so align yourself with a national partner that will support you in case something happens.